My name's Larry Dowell. I'm the legal counsel for the Illinois Automobile Dealers Association. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And also, even more importantly, thank you for your membership in IADA and your support of the association and your grassroots advocacy, especially on this issue and a bunch of stuff we were able to get done this session. The $10,000 trade-in cap is going to be repealed January 1st. We're going to move to a 90-day drive-away permit for out-of-state buyers, a $20 dealer title when reassignment areas are filled up. And a lot of that was through the grassroots support of all of you. So we really appreciate that. But the biggest one of them all is our warranty reimbursement statute, which was, again, a lot of calls and letters from the membership and a team effort from our partners at the Chicago Auto Trade Association and IADA together. We're able to get these great warranty reimbursement changes enacted starting January 1st. And then to go through kind of a review of what the changes are and then how to maximize your benefits under it, I'm going to turn it over to Ken Lohr and Keith Gitman from Bellavia and Blatt, who will run through it. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Great. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Thanks, Larry, for the intro. Before we get into the slides, I want to do a little housekeeping this morning. We're going to have a Q&A at the end, so save your questions until the end of the presentation, and we'll spend as much time as possible answering questions. I'm sure we'll have quite a few questions. Again, my name is Ken Lohr. I'm from Bellavia Blatt, and Keith Gitman at the bottom of the screen is also from Bellavia Blatt. Keith is a managing partner. He's the legal eagle of the firm. I'm not the legal eagle, but I'm the fixed ops guy. So I speak fixed ops, and I have about 15 years of retail warranty reimbursement experience and about 40 years of fixed ops experience. So we're here to give you all the great news of the new statute that Illinois and Larry has worked so hard to implement, and you're going to see that it's really, really important, and it's a big win for all the members, all the dealers in Illinois. So we're really excited today, and let's get started.
Great. Well, just to kind of piggyback along what Ken said, it's always a pleasure working with the team at IADA, serving as the recommended vendor for retail warranty reimbursement for the association's members. As Ken and Larry said, I'm Keith Gitman. I'm the managing attorney at Bellavia Blatt. We're really excited to be here today and thank everyone for joining. We're here to discuss an area that's really important for dealers to fully understand: retail warranty reimbursement. Whether you're here to gain an understanding of the amendments to the statute or to get a general overview of the process, we'll discuss all the crucial points. Also, as Ken said, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the Q&A function, and we'll address those at the end. Now, the slide here for overview. Just to give you a brief overview of our agenda today, we're going to discuss the difference between a statutory and a manufacturer submission for an increase in your parts and labor rates, including eligibility, timing considerations, and the general submission process. Next, we'll also discuss the legal intricacies involved in the amended statute. Also, how the statute will benefit you as a dealer. And lastly, we'll provide some tips and best practices to ensure that you're maximizing the dealership's reimbursement rates. And that kind of sets the tone for the remainder of the webinar.
Great. And as we all know, factories, in the last several years have cut our margins on the front end, and it's tough on the variable side. Of course, with COVID, grosses are up in the front, so we're enjoying a brief time in our history where we're able to make some gross on the front end. But generally speaking, when things return to normal, we're all faced with these issues: remote selling issues, inventory constraints, allocation issues, facility upgrades. Some of the manufacturers still have stair-step bonus programs, and of course the never-ending audits and chargebacks that we're all faced with. But one of the newest issues is, as we have more EVs, electric vehicles, what is that going to do to our fixed ops revenue? And I know there's been lots and lots of talk about different areas of EVs and what they can mean to fixed ops. Some experts say that it's going to increase our revenue per repair order, but in fact, we just don't know what those numbers are going to be. And Tesla hasn't been real forthcoming on what their warranty experience has been and what their customer pay numbers are. So it's very difficult to gauge. So there's lots of uncertainty here. And one of the things that can really help us smooth those bumps in the road is retail warranty reimbursement. So as we move forward in the presentation, we'll put some numbers to it and we'll show you what it really means.
Great, thank you, Ken. Now, when we do a statutory filing, the goal, of course, is to obtain warranty reimbursement at retail rates. This is for parts rates as well as labor rates. Now, when we're looking at the bottom line, though, obtaining retail rates can have a tremendous impact upon your dealership's profits, and we're here to help you do just that. Now, the Illinois amended statute, which, as you probably know, is effective as of January 1st, 2022, it now provides updated statutory guidelines that will allow you to obtain higher gross profits on your warranty repairs. We'll go through these details shortly. And also, the statutory filing differs from the traditional market area labor rate request and also provides parts at the same retail markup rates. Now, these statutory filings are covered by the past legislation and is designed to support the dealers. Now, here for our next slide, just to give you a little bit of a background, originally the manufacturer set warranty reimbursement rates that would be deemed reasonable. However, this was unfair as the rates were much lower than the retail customer rates. Dealers objected to these guidelines and presented legal challenges to kind of try to level the playing field. Over time, states began to pass laws permitting dealers to obtain retail rates of reimbursement for the warranty work. Now, as we sit here today, all 50 states now provide statutory filing guidelines to help dealers obtain the retail rates. As I mentioned earlier, keep in mind the state statutes provide for retail reimbursement for both labor and parts rates. Therefore, the Illinois dealers are entitled to the same labor rates and parts markup on warranty work as on customer pay. Now, in terms of the permissible timing of the submissions in Illinois, the dealers, you guys can submit twice per calendar year for parts and once per calendar year for labor.
Great, thanks, Keith. One of the things that the most important part of this presentation today, I think to everybody, is how is the new amended statute going to affect everybody? So we're going to spend a little bit of time about talking about some of the new amendments to the statute, and these are extremely important. There's a couple of unique ones that other states do not have that Illinois has really done a great job getting these done. So the first one, number one, is elimination of surcharges or any other cost recovery strategies by the manufacturer. So as we all know, prior to the amended statute that takes effect in January 1st, the manufacturers could impose surcharges on your new vehicle. So this was very problematic for most of us and really tied your hands. And most dealers did not file for increases under the previous statute. So this is a huge win, and this allows you to move forward and you don't have to worry about any surcharges being imposed on you. So that's number one. Number two, this is big too. Utilization of agreed upon retail labor time guides or 1.5 times warranty time for submitted claims, or 150%. So the statute's pretty specific about this. You have to have, if you're going to use a labor time guide other than the 1.5 times the warranty time, you're going to have to gain agreement and consensus with the manufacturer as to what that labor time guide is. So for example, if you use all data, then you're going to have to discuss this with the manufacturer and agree that you're going to use all data flag times when you file your claim. So, you know, it's something that you're going to have to look hard at. I was talking to Larry about this yesterday. My opinion, our opinion is to keep it clean, we probably just recommend using 1.5 times the warranty labor time guide. It's just going to be much easier, much cleaner. My opinion is also that the 1.5 times is probably going to be pretty close to what most retail labor time guides are going to be anyway. So, but you can certainly take a look at a group of commonly used labor operations and compare the 1.5 as to what it would be in ALLDATA or Mitchell or whatever it is that you're using. So that's very important. This is a unique amendment to the statute. Illinois is the only state out of 50 that has this particular part of their statute. So this is going to be very, very important to you when this is part of your warranty claims process. So keep that in mind when you start filing claims. Number 3, this is also important and unique to Illinois, is reimbursement for technician time spent communicating with technical assistance centers or engineering or any external manufacturer source in order to provide a warranty repair, including hold time. So this is very unique to Illinois. There's no other state that has this statute. And as we all know, with everything being electronic on vehicles today, and some of the requirements that the manufacturer imposes on you prior to making some major repairs, you have to get prior approval, you have to go through their technical assist center before you can make a repair. This all takes lots of time. So when you have a technician that spends an hour on the phone and he's not getting paid and you're not getting paid for that, this remedies that. So this is very big. And again, Larry and I were talking about this, and you're going to have to abide by time recording requirements, just like you would with any other warranty claim or straight time or anything like that. So when you get into these calls with technical assist center, you're going to have to do a time punch. Your techs are going to have to document that time spent. You just can't say, hey, I was on the phone for 45 minutes with Billy Bob at the Technical Assist Center. That's not going to work because that won't withstand an audit. So it's very important that you make a separate time punch when you're in this situation. Punch off your job, punch on again, and then punch off when you're off the phone or whatever it is that you're doing. So that's very important. Number 4, entire engine and transmission assemblies are reimbursed at cost plus 30%, not your revised markup. So for example, if your retail markup, if we establish that to be cost plus 70% instead of cost plus 40%, you don't get the 70% on your engines and transmissions. You're limited to the 30% markup. And for most of us, this is really not a big event. We don't do a lot of engine and transmission assemblies under warranty. So I don't really see that being a big issue. And I think our understanding, at least what Larry had told me, it doesn't seem to be a big issue with the dealer body. So however, it's out there. Just wanted to point that out. Again, number 5, submission frequency, as Keith mentioned. It remains at once per calendar year for labor and twice for parts. But I think what you're going to find is you're going to be submitting for labor more often than you will for parts. And we can talk a little bit about that. So it's really not a huge issue. Last, number 6. This is very important to understand. Insertion of reasonableness language concerning requested warranty parts markups, but excludes labor rates. So the language in the statute basically says whatever parts markup you're asking for must be reasonable within your market. So for example, if everybody in the market is retail cost plus 70%, and your number is cost plus 120%, the manufacturer has the ability to rebut that based on the statute. They could say, hey, the market's at cost plus 70%, 120 is not reasonable. However, this doesn't apply to labor rates. So it's only on parts. We have seen this in other states. There are other states that have this language in the statute, and there are manufacturers that will try and take advantage of that. So as you move forward, and if you utilize our firm, we'll let you know what that is and what's reasonable and what we feel is not reasonable. So it can become an issue, but at this point, it's not a big issue. So that covers the amendments on the Illinois statute. And again, it is a great, great statute. So it's going to be very, very beneficial to everybody. All right, let's talk a little bit about, again, Keith touched on the statutes have been in place for many years. You know, this all started way back in the 80s. I think Massachusetts was the first state that had a retail warranty reimbursement statute. So this isn't anything new, but it is new to some states. Recently, we've had 3 or 4 states that just adopted statutes. And of course, basically Illinois, this is a brand new statute because it wasn't utilized before. Primarily, most dealers didn't file. They didn't take advantage of the statute because of these issues that we talked about. So for most of us in Illinois, this is a new statute. I wanted to point out in some of the states that have had statutes for many years, we found that 30% of them have never filed under the guidelines. So they're sitting at cost plus 40% on parts, and whatever the labor rate is that the manufacturer says that you deserve. So there's lots of dealers that still haven't filed. And those dealers that have filed, 70% of them haven't maximized their results because there are ways that you can maximize your outcome. And we'll talk a little bit about some of those as we move forward. And last, 80% of dealers fail to file on an annual basis. So this is important to remember as you move forward. Once you file, again, you're eligible. You can file every year for labor and twice a year for parts. So don't lose sight of that because this isn't one and done. So as we all know, we raise our labor rates on the retail side on a regular basis, whether it's once a year or twice a year. And when you do that, you have an opportunity to submit again to get an increase from the manufacturer. So we see a lot of dealers that fail to file. So we try and keep track of all of our clients and remind them, hey, it's time to consider another submission if you've raised your labor rates or your parts. So if you're not getting the following, and again, this is something very interesting. Most of our clients get between 70 and 75% cost plus on parts, which is very significant. Most manufacturers, as you know, pay cost plus 40. There are some that pay MSRP, but most pay cost plus 40. The average warranty labor reimbursement is roughly 93 to 95% of your door rate. So if you're at $150 an hour at your retail door rate, typically on average, you can expect to receive 93 to 95% of your door rate. So something to keep in mind. And here's something that we really wanted to show you that's really, really important. We wanted to illustrate what retail reimbursement can mean for the average dealer. So we put a chart up here. And by the way, these numbers are from a dealer friend of mine, has a Ford dealership. He's since sold this dealership, but these were actual numbers that we received and we got for him. So prior to retail warranty reimbursement, prior to him filing, his annualized warranty part sales were a little over $1 million a year. And his warranty parts gross was a little over 300,000. So that gave him cost plus 40 or a 29% gross profit retention on warranty parts. On warranty labor, he was right at $1.2 million a year in warranty labor sales. And at the time, his warranty labor rate was $119.81. So after filing, his warranty parts sales went up to $1.366 million. His gross increased to $585,000, which gave him an additional, let's just call it $275,000 in annualized warranty parts gross. So that gave him cost plus 75.4%. So it was a huge increase. On the labor side, he increased his gross by $137,000, and he went from 119 to 133.70. And that gave him a little bit less than $500,000 a year in additional gross, 410,000 to be exact. And that goes primarily right to the bottom line as net. So there may be a little bit of bonus money you're paying out of that to some of your managers, but most of that goes to the net profit. And the reason why I mentioned that this particular dealer sold his dealership, I'm going to point out another very interesting benefit. It is the fact that when you get this additional net profit, guess what happens to the valuation of your dealership? It goes up. So blue sky in this particular store was 5 times. So let's just say he got an extra $2 million when he sold his store. So this is very important to remember. When you increase your net profit, it always increases your blue sky value as well. So something to keep in mind. Let's talk a little bit about the analysis preparation, because this is really the meat and potatoes of what we do and the services we provide our clients. And I got to tell you, it is a very complicated process. So I'm not going to spend a month of Sundays running through this process, because I know you're busy. It's end of the month. You're trying to get a statement out by the 10th. So we're going to try and go through this pretty quick. And I recognize and respect your time. So I just want to review it real quick. Some of the things that you have to consider when you do the preparation of the analysis, which establishes your parts markup and your labor rate from a retail perspective. So you have to establish that, and you have to go through an analysis process. You analyze the data to determine the best repair order sequence. And just to give you an idea, most statutes, including Illinois, require that we submit 100 qualified repair orders to the manufacturer. Now, 100 qualified repair orders sounds pretty easy. Hey, we just go in and we grab 100 of the best customer pay repair orders and establish our rates. Well, that's not how it works. You also have to extract those 100 repair orders from a sequence of repair orders that are in numerical sequence. And the reason for that is the manufacturer does not want you to cherry pick the best repair orders. So, for example, if we use a sequence of repair orders domestically, like a Ford or a Chrysler dealership or a Chevrolet dealership or any GM dealership, typically we look at about 1,500 repair orders of all types to extract the 100 qualified that we need. So that gives you some idea of the work involved. So again, some of those repair order sequences, depending on your franchise, can be up to 3,000 repair orders. So for example, Toyota and Honda, I'm not picking on anybody, but Toyota and Honda typically have a very low repair incidence. So it requires more repair orders. They have a high incidence of maintenance work, and maintenance work is excluded. So you don't have to include maintenance work to establish what your rates are. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So in some cases, we're looking at 3,000 repair orders to extract 100 qualified repair orders. Then, of course, once we do that, we have to identify the number of qualified repair orders by reviewing every single repair order in that sequence, as I mentioned. And we have to validate that all the parts that are used are OEM part numbers, because you cannot use aftermarket parts to establish either your labor rate or your parts markup. So you have to make sure that everything is a OEM part, and you have to validate that. You also have to validate that each qualified repair order complies with the statute. And that's really important to remember, because you have to follow the statute, number one, and you have to follow each manufacturer's different nuances and what they require. So they're all different, let me tell you. All the manufacturers, we work with them all. Every single manufacturer has their own requirements. So in addition to that, you have to follow the statute in Illinois as well. Then, of course, we have to calculate each individual repair order, qualified repair order, the parts markup and the labor rate. Each one of those has to be calculated. And then, of course, we have to calculate the total overall markup of all 100 of those repair orders. And then, of course, you have to make sure that your submission is accurate and complies with the statute and the manufacturer's requirements, because I will tell you, the manufacturer looks for reasons not to pay you what you deserve. So if you make a mistake in your submission, it can and will be rejected by the manufacturer. And that's something that you don't want. So perfection is the name of the game. It absolutely has to be perfect or it will be rejected. So that's kind of the basic process of how it works. Some of the considerations are, what's a qualified repair order? I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but just to give you an overview, a qualified repair order is a customer pay repair that would have been covered under the manufacturer's warranty had the vehicle been under warranty at the time of repair. So to illustrate this, a good way of illustrating it, let's just say a customer rolls into your service drive with a water pump that's leaking, right? Car has 100,000 miles on it. It's 10 years old. It's a customer pay repair. However, that would be a qualified repair order because had that vehicle still been under the basic warranty, it would be a covered repair. So that's one of the repair orders that you would use to make the calculation. Now that's a good thing because typically you're going to charge your door rate for that type of repair, and you're going to charge at least retail on your parts pricing. You're not going to discount the parts. Some of you may have a parts matrix, so you're going to charge matrix pricing for that water pump. So these are all good things, as opposed to that same vehicle coming in for, let's just say a maintenance operation, a 30,000 mile service. Well, those are excluded from the calculation because that's something that the manufacturer does not pay for under the basic warranty. The owner's responsible for the maintenance of the vehicle. So that's a good thing because you can exclude those. And as we all know, those are highly competitive operations and they're done at less than your door rate typically. And in many cases, the parts are discounted and there's not a whole lot of markup in those parts. So that is what a qualified repair order is. Then, of course, we have to understand what repair lines can be legitimately excluded from the calculation. So you have to know the statute. There are other exclusions and inclusions in Illinois statute. So we won't get into the specifics, but I'm just giving you a general idea. And then, of course, there's state rules that require additional data to be reported. How do I handle discounts? That's very important because discounts are applied very differently. The statute, we have to use net pricing. So net pricing includes discounts. So we have to calculate those. And all the manufacturers have different ways of accounting for discounts. So you have to know what your manufacturer's requirements are and how you calculate those discounts. And again, what are my manufacturer's specific requirements to comply? You have to know those answers. Then finally, you have to evaluate the gross margin on all the qualified repair orders to establish what your rates are. So that is a pretty deep dive into the preparation. And of course, Keith, he's going to talk a little bit about some of the legal points about submitting your claims and that type of thing. So Keith, go ahead and let's talk about that.
Great. Thanks so much, Ken. Really have some great information. Just a couple of quick points I wanted to touch on. When preparing to submit your claim, there's really three aspects that I like to focus on: notification, accuracy, and experience. And Ken started talking about this earlier. For notification, you really got to identify the proper points of contact and always send proper notification to the manufacturer that you are in fact making a submission. Next, it would be accuracy. it's crucial to conduct a proper data analysis and identify the appropriate ROs, as Ken was just saying. Perfection is so important. Otherwise, the submission can be rejected. We want to make sure that it's done right the first time, it's a thorough process, and it's submitted properly to make sure things run efficiently and smoothly. Now, lastly, in terms of experience, mistakes are likely to occur if you have someone do your submissions that doesn't have the necessary experience and knowledge regarding not just the submissions process, but the applicable statutory guidelines. And that's why it's important to have your counsel as well as the fixed operations. And that's something that we can offer, is by being able to offer both sides of it.
Great, thanks, Keith. So one of the things we want to talk about, and again, Keith's point to that, and I know I talked about it a little bit before, is about the perfection. I don't want to overstate it, but it's hard to overstate it. It really is, because it is just so important to get that right. And just to give you an example, you know, in our firm, we have a team that proofs every single submission before it's submitted to the manufacturer. And it is so easy to make mistakes. And I do submissions on occasion. I've done them for 15 years, and occasionally I will do them. Everybody makes mistakes, everybody, because you have to proof them and catch them before you make those submissions. So they are perfect when they leave our firm, and they have to be perfect if you're going to do them on your own. You have to have another set of eyes look at them that knows the statute and knows the manufacturer's requirements, because again, if you submit it with mistakes, they'll reject it. So let's talk a little bit about maximizing your results. You know, I get a lot of questions from dealers about, hey, you know, I'm thinking about raising my labor rate. I'm thinking about maybe using a parts matrix instead of MSRP. Should I just go ahead and file now, or should I wait for those changes to take place and file later? Well, that's a complicated question and an even more complicated answer, but basically it comes down to a math problem. It all depends on how much gross profit you could earn by filing now with your current rates or your current parts markup, or filing later and leaving that gross behind for the 90 days or so it takes for those changes to take effect, if that makes sense. So there's lots of considerations, but some of the ways that you can maximize your results is develop a plan to increase your margins on customer pay work before you file. One of the things that we like to do is perform a competitive market analysis. You know, we see this all the time where we'll work with a client and, you know, we have a good sense of what the markets are in different parts of the country. And recently I had a client, I'm not going to name the market because that would give it away, but it turned out that we sensed that his labor rate was low. And we did our own analysis and we were correct. It was $30 low in this market. So that particular dealer had not done a market survey in 3 years. Rates went up. He was not aware of that. So prior to filing, we went ahead and we fixed that first and got his retail rates to where they needed to be before filing. But I'm sure most of you keep track of that and understand what your market is. So it's just an example of things that you should do before you file. Make sure that your pricing is within the market. If it's not, make the necessary adjustments. Also, identify ways to improve margins based on that market analysis. So you may want to adjust your labor pricing. You may want to use a labor pricing grid. You may want to adjust your parts pricing on the retail side. Those types of considerations come into play. And then, of course, you want to implement your strategy and then monitor the performance of that new pricing strategy that you implemented so you know when you're ready to go ahead and file. So again, the question is, should I implement a parts matrix or a labor pricing grid? So those are some of the things to consider. Also, I don't want this to become a commercial for our firm, but I just want you to understand some of the considerations about using a firm to do the work for you, because it is so very complicated. And this is a legal process. That's what it comes down to. So whether it's us or whether you use somebody else, of course, we hope you use us. Retaining a professional saves time, and it gets you the best result and maximizes the outcome. So, of course, we have a team of analysts at our firm. We have a legal side too, but on the analyst side, everybody that works in our firm, we're all fixed ops people. So we're not data entry clerks. We don't do that. All the folks that work for you in our firm are actual parts and service directors, warranty administrators, folks with a background like mine in fixed operations. So we have a great understanding of what it is that you do every day and how to maximize those results. And again, on the other side, we have a team of attorneys. Bellavia Blatt has been in the dealer law business for 35 years. Len Bellavia is very well known in the industry, and we specialize in dealership law and retail warranty reimbursement. We're actually the pioneers in that. So we have a team of attorneys that stand behind you. So I just wanted to point that out. Just make sure that you select a professional and the right professional to do the job for you. Keith?
Yep. And just to continue along, as Ken stated, it's a very time-intensive and work-intensive process. So applying for retail warranty reimbursement does involve the practice of law and a keen analytical ability. So we have the legal side and the fixed ops side as well. So it's really crucial to use counsel who's knowledgeable in this specific subject matter and well-versed in the legal intricacies involved in Illinois or other states, depending upon where you might be. So you really should have your attorney prepare your submission on your letterhead and have your attorney respond to any objections that may arise to your submission. And by having your attorney involved, it can also ensure that all pertinent issues are raised and addressed thoroughly from a legal standpoint as well.
Great. Thanks, Keith. And I just want to add a little bit to that. The manufacturers we're well known with the manufacturers. We have relationships with them. We know who their teams are. In fact, this is routine business for the manufacturers. They have their own dedicated team of employees. That's all they do every day is review retail warranty submissions, statutory submissions. We know who the leaders are of those teams. We communicate with them on a regular basis. When they receive a submission, they know it's from us. They understand that we're professional. So it's very important that you have that relationship with the manufacturers.
Good points.
Now, I get this a lot when I talk to potential clients or existing clients. Some of the objections that we get for applying for retail warranty reimbursement, the biggest one is, hey, I'm afraid of retaliation. And that makes complete sense. It really does. But I will tell you that we haven't seen that. 50 states now today have retail reimbursement statutes. And like I mentioned before, this is routine business for the manufacturers. We monitor all of our submissions. We haven't had any reports of retaliation, including audits or inventory allocation issues, none of that. I can remember way back when I was an executive manager and I did my own submission, that was 16 years ago, and the statute was new at that time to the state I was in. The only negative feedback I got was from my sales rep. He said, hey, do you really want to do this to us? It was that kind of conversation. That was the end of it. I never heard anything more about it. Today, you won't even hear that conversation. I've heard of reps, parts and service reps, talking to their dealers and their service managers and say, hey, I'm surprised you haven't filed for retail warranty reimbursement. So it has really changed. So I don't expect that you would ever see any retaliation. So I wanted to put that out there because there probably are some questions amongst the attendees today about that. So I wanted to answer that before it got asked. The next one is, we can do this ourselves. Well, that's possible. There's a lot of bright service managers out there. There's a lot of talent out there, and you could do this yourselves. That is very possible, but some of the things that you have to understand is, how long does this actually take? And I will tell you from experience, to do one submission, whether it's parts or labor, it takes 30 to 40 hours of our time. So, and we've done thousands of these. When I first did mine, my very first one at the dealership that I was at, I did it myself. It took me a month to get it done because I was doing other things. I had to run the business, right? I couldn't devote 40 hours of my time nonstop to do a submission. So it became very contentious. It was a difficult process. And at the time, thinking back on it, I wish I would have just paid somebody to get it done, because I lost a month's worth of gross by waiting. I could have had it done. And luckily I did get it done correctly, but we're not saying that you can't do it. There's just lots of roadblocks that would prevent you from getting it done timely and getting it done correctly. So you have to understand what's involved when you do that. So again, let's talk a little bit, some tips about maximizing results. We'll go through it real quick. Limit or eliminate discounts on retail repair type work. So prior to filing, shut the discount machine off. Don't give out any coupons to clients. And that's on repair work. And you really shouldn't be discounting repair work anyway, just my opinion. That's just an opinion. Discounting should be reserved to maintenance work, that highly competitive work, oil changes, tire rotations, brakes, things like that. So eliminate the discounts on your brain surgery. Your brain surgery is what people come to you for. That's why they're coming to you. You don't really need to discount that. They understand that you're the experts. So try and eliminate discounts on retail repair type work. If you do any discounting, discount the parts when applying for labor. Makes sense, right? Discount the labor when applying for parts. So have an understanding of that. If you're going to apply for just parts and you are going to do some discounting, discount the labor, not the parts. Clearly label the discount as either parts or labor, because you have to identify that on the repair order. This is a parts discount. This is a labor discount. And apply it to the specific repair line. Don't apply it to the entire repair order, because if you apply a discount to the entire repair order, you have to allocate that discount to every repair on the repair order. So for example, if you decide to give a discount on your 30,000 mile service, make sure that discount appears on the line of the service, because if you put it on the bottom of the repair order, then you have to apply that discount not only to the 30,000 mile service, but you might have to apply it to the water pump that you replaced too, which reduces your outcome. So keep that in mind. Consider adjusting technician flag times on battery replacements. All the manufacturers require that we include batteries in our analysis, because batteries are something that the manufacturer pays for under warranty. So if they have a failed battery, they will pay for that under warranty. So you have to include those. So these are typically low margin items. So don't pay your technician 5/10 or 6/10 or 7/10 to replace a battery. Consider doing it at 2 or 3/10 at your retail rate. If you do that, you're still well within the market pricing of battery replacements. So you'll still be competitive. So that's a good thing to remember. Also, some manufacturers require brake pad and rotor machining because they pay for that. Subaru is one of those. Chrysler requires them. So you have to remember that when you price these items prior to filing for a statutory increase, you have to put those into the mix. And most of us pay our technicians 2 hours to do brakes. Maybe you pay them 1.2 hours, and maybe you use a retail rate, your repair rate, and not a discounted maintenance rate. So keep that in mind too, because that could negatively impact your results. And again, bulbs, that's another one. We call these the 3 Bs: brakes, bulbs, and batteries. So bulbs at full retail with reduced labor time. So most bulbs are pretty simple to replace anyway. You don't need to pay your technician 5/10 of an hour to replace a light bulb. Maybe it's 1/10. Maybe you have your maintenance person change light bulbs, or Quick Lane, or whoever that is, have them do it a 1/10, or maybe you don't even charge for labor and you don't have to include them. So just keep that in mind. These are some of the most common things that we see. These are the most common things that you can do to help maximize your result. All right. Alignments also. Some manufacturers require alignments. However, all manufacturers require alignments when you're making a repair that requires an alignment to complete the repair. And what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, you're replacing a suspension component, like a ball joint. That's covered under warranty, so you have to include that. However, a ball joint requires an alignment. So if you do an alignment, you're going to have to include it. What we advise is you include the alignment with the repair. So for example, if the ball joint pays 3 hours to replace the ball joint, and you're at $150 an hour, you have $450 worth of labor. And if you do your alignment on a separate line at $119.95, that becomes a problem because you're not getting your maximum rate. Just include the alignment in your repair rate. Maybe you pay your technician 4 hours at $150 and the repair is $600, if that makes sense. So that's a consideration when you're looking at alignments. And again, some manufacturers require the inclusion of routine alignments as well. If you need to know who those are, just shoot me an email and I can tell you. Some manufacturers require inclusion of wiper blades. And again, just let me know, send me an email, I'll tell you who those are. But most of our clients don't even charge your customers to put wiper blades on. Don't charge them any labor, and you won't have to include it. Charge full retail for any diagnostic work. So for example, check engine lights, very common diagnostic work that we do. And if the customer declines the services, most manufacturers require that we include that diagnostic work. Some of us discount that to our customers. So if we pay our technicians 1 hour to do the diagnostic work and your door rate is $150, then you should charge your customer $150. Don't charge them $99.95 because you're going to have to include that into your submission, which will reduce your outcome. It's not going to be good for your results. All right, so one of the last things we want to talk about, Keith is going to review and summarize what we talked about today. So Keith, go ahead.
Great, thanks so much. So as we're finishing up the presentation here, I just want to reemphasize a couple of points. Filing a statutory submission is your choice. Now, this choice can significantly increase your profits for your dealership immediately and for the future if done properly. Now, as well, just like we were saying earlier, it's really important to have a team behind you that can advise on the legal and the analytical aspects of the data review, the submissions, and any legal issues that may arise. Now, lastly, if you have any questions, which I see that you do from the Q&A module here, please type them in the platform and feel free to contact us after the webinar is completed. We'd be happy to discuss your dealership with you and how we can assist by maximizing your increases. So I'm going to open up the Q&A here. See what we have. First is, will we be able to watch again at a later date since it's being recorded? Yes. We are saving a recording of the webinar for anyone that may want to rewatch or share it with others as well. Looks like we've received that question a couple of times. Here's another one. When running your ROs in sequence report and being a multi-line dealer, will they accept that report, like when they have warranty labor rate increases I've done in the past?
So what I think you might be asking is, if you have multiple franchises in the same DMS platform, will they accept those repair orders? Well, yes, they'll accept those repair orders that are in that sequence, but you can't use another manufacturer's qualified repairs to establish your repair rate that you're going for. So say, for example, if you're submitting for your General Motors franchise, but you also have a Ford franchise in the mix, you can't use the Ford repair orders to establish your markup or your labor rate. However, you can use those repair orders in the sequence because they're within those in the sequence. You have to include them, if that makes sense. I think that's what you're asking, but in any case, that's a great question.
Great. Another question I've seen a couple times is, will you share your company info? As you can see on the slide here, here's our contact information. Please feel free to call us, email us, visit our website. Once again, we'd be happy to talk to you about some more of the specifics involved in your dealership. Here's another question. For an RO analysis, does flag time need to be posted on retail tickets, or is hours and amount enough?
So in order to establish what your effective labor rate is, we have to know what the flag time is. That's something you can suppress on your customer pay repair order copy, because we require the accounting copy of the repair order, not the invoice copy. So just the accounting copy. So you don't have to post flag times on your customer copy of the repair order, if that's what you mean. Just make sure it's suppressed like you probably do today, because we use either the audit copy or the accounting copy, which has the flag times.
Okay, looks like we have time for a couple more questions. I have one here, looking for clarification on the 1.5 times for labor time. One of the manufacturers we carry states, since we already have an agreed upon labor time guide, we are only eligible for the time as it states on the guide. Are we eligible to get 1.5 times the published time in the manufacturer labor time guide?
Well, this, in my opinion, I'm going to let Keith chime in here, but in my opinion is the statute trumps any type of agreement that you have with the manufacturer currently. So when the statute takes effect January 1st, 2022, the game starts over. So you can establish with the manufacturer what you're going to use, whether it's going to be 1.5 times the labor time guide, the warranty labor time guide, or Chilton or Mitchell or all data, because the statute is essentially amended January 1st, 2022. So am I correct in that, Keith?
Yeah, exactly what you said. You know, the statute's effective January 1st, and we could just always refer to the statute. And again, like you said, you know, we could always talk about this in further detail once the webinar is over. We could talk to you about the specifics involved with what you might be dealing with.
Good question.
Great. And is it possible to get a copy of the slides? Yes, we can share the slides as well as the recording of the webinar. And just scrolling through. A lot of the questions pretty much covered the same topics we've already discussed. So just again, to finish up, we really thank you for joining today. We had a great turnout. We're happy that, you know, this is such an important issue to cover and to discuss. I want to thank Ken for his time, thank Larry for allowing us to do this for the association. And Ken, if you have anything additional to add.
Yeah, we just want to thank you. We understand that your time is important, so we appreciate you attending. We're passionate about what we do. You deserve retail pricing for your warranty claims. There's no reason why you should not submit. Everybody is safe in doing so. We're happy to help you, and we look forward to working with you and all the members of the IADA. So thanks again, everybody, for attending. Have a great day.
Great. Thank you all again.